as you all may have noticed that Microelectronics and VLSI design program is a joint program between Department of Electronic Systems Engineering and Electrical and Communication Engineering. So basically the structure in IISc is very different than IITs. In IITs you will see one department basically doing everything related to a broad field. Like for instance, in IIT Bombay, Delhi, Kanpur, everywhere you will see a department called electrical engineering, and electrical engineering will have or will host all the programs. Of course, electrical engineering undergraduate in electrical engineering, and then postgraduate programs in different streams like microelectronics, control systems, system design, communication and signal processing, and so on, right? Whereas in IISc, I mean, since IISc is primarily a research and postgraduate institute, we don't have any undergraduate teaching. So there are different departments having specialized in different streams, but all these departments fall under a division called, for instance, our department will fall under division called ECS, right? So all the electrical engineering and computer science streams will fall under division called ECS. So in IIT context, you can think of ECS as the department, but having multiple buildings, right? Many more buildings than IITs would have, and these buildings are scattered across the campus, right? So for instance, entire ECS division has, if I count quickly, something around 8 to 9 giant buildings scattered across the entire campus, right? And so for instance, one department would have heavily, people working in a certain area like, power electronics. In another department, people may have, very strong presence of people who are doing system design and microelectronics. In some other department, there could be a strong presence of people who are working on communication and signal processing and networking and so on, right? So this is how things are structured in IISc. Another important aspect of IISc is that though there are many departments and divisions, most of the groups or faculties work in collaboration. So there's hardly any boundary between, department. Many faculties work together from different departments, divisions. So you have a lot bigger opportunity to collaborate in different domains with different faculties and so on, right? And of course, as you know that, Bangalore is the Silicon Valley of India, or the hub of most of the semiconductor companies. So we are kind of surrounded by almost all semiconductor companies and their centers in Bangalore, right? So this is about the program, and one of the key reasons why it is popular. There are several reasons why this program is quite popular, not just among the students. Of course, I know students look into the placement and the package and so on, but across the industry, it is quite popular because of the training that we offer, and second is because of the vicinity of these companies next to IISc. So we are just next to these companies. They do come anytime. They visit us. They interact with the students. So students engage with the industry people at an early stage. We have several internship programs with industry. So also attending, taking these internship positions are not a difficult thing for students, because they can just take some time off from the lab and from their hostel. They just commute to these companies here in Bangalore and go for the internship. They can easily interact with these companies and engineers over there and so on. So because of this kind of closeness and the interaction nature, the program is popular, along with the nature of training that we offer, which is not only theoretical but heavily experimental and lab oriented in nature. For instance, if you look into I'll talk about that later when you see the course program, and you'll see that majority of the courses have a very strong lab component. So you will have to spend a lot of time in lab. You have to take up lab projects. You have to learn a lot from the lab and the training that is offered in the lab. Theory is one good thing, but theory is not everything in IISc. I mean, you have to basically involve and give a lot of time in lab practice and project work in IISc, right? So I'll come to this course part in a different document, which is rather more elaborate document that I prepared some time back, right? So and a couple of other things. For instance, I already talked about the the industry presence here. I think most of you know that microelectronics and VLSI design is a specialization which drives close to $400-500 billion semiconductor industry, right? And that's growing with 10% growth per year. And this is an important figure to know because often this question comes from a student that what is the future of microelectronics? By the way, some of us would have given talks and these talks would be present online, and maybe you can go and watch those talks and understand what is the future of microelectronics. But if you just look into this growth pattern, 10-year growth every year, you can imagine that what could be the future of microelectronics. And more you learn in this area, better and better you will do tomorrow, right? As I said, it's a industry-centric as well as research-centric program. So you'll have equal opportunity of excelling in research as well as excelling in threads or directions which if you want to pursue towards an industry job or becoming a fantastic engineer or scientist in an industry R&D lab. So you get both the opportunities, you get both kind of training. It's completely up to you which thread you want to choose. You want to become a fantastic engineer or an R&D engineer in an industry. You pursue PhD path or become an R&D engineer industry, or you basically get training to do research and basically pursue further career in a research direction, right? So all these possibilities do exist in IISc. The CTC numbers are old. This is a 2-year-old document, so I think these numbers are revised. If I know some of my students, in fact, last year, I think they got much higher. I don't want to quote a number because these numbers are better available with the students. But these numbers are certainly, higher these days. And the other thing is work-life balance. So, I mean, like any big institute, yes, we have a lot of amenities, but more than amenities, what is important, particularly in this program and, our departments is the kind of flexibility and the freedom that we give to students to enjoy their time, their free time in the campus and, enjoying all the amenities and so on. For instance, we have, we would have many events within the department where faculties and students work together. You will hear about Open Day, which is basically a science exhibition. It's like a science fest, which we open for, other college and school kids. And all the students contribute in terms of some scientific demo to educate the outside world better about science and engineering. So this is one event which is quite a fun event. I mean, students, they get involved heavily. They work for almost like several weeks to develop these kind of scientific demonstrations, which they possibly would not have done in the past. So they will have this kind of opportunity. Everything is funded by IISc, of course. Then, we have potluck where this is like a cultural event within the department. So it's a 2-day event where there are so many sports events, faculties and students, they all participate. Then we will have a cultural night. There are several dinner events where students join faculties for dinner or lunches. Then there are several sports events, DESE cricket, or I would say cricket in these departments with the students is quite common. Many faculties join. Including me. So we play cricket. Of course, the students play more regularly, but faculties also play cricket with the students, I would say at least once in a semester. So these are more formal events which are properly organized by students and so on. And of course, I mean, this is all from department. But you can imagine that at the student level and the hostel level, there are many more events, and possibly you would have already done a better research on that than I would know about the hostel life in IISc. But there are many YouTube videos, and you can watch these videos and see what is the hostel life, how is the campus, and what kind of infrastructure you get over there, right? So the point is that you will have a fantastic time in IISc. So if you read somewhere that IISc is all about serious research and boring life, then it's not true. Um, Even faculties don't have boring life, so then you can imagine that students would be having a lot more fun. So let me go to the next document. This is the research cluster document explaining what is the research cluster on microelectronics and VLSI design. So this is the research cluster. It's the research cluster which is basically hosting this program. Let me check if somebody is waiting in the lobby. No. OK. So so research cluster basically is much broader, so that this involves PhD students, MTech students, all faculties, our labs, and so on. And if I can give you an idea, there are several faculty members, but I would list a couple of core faculty members who are teaching some of the core courses, and there are several other faculties in IISc who will teach you elective courses, and you can work with them. They have their own labs and so on. So, for instance, of course, you heard from me. I work on devices, semiconductor devices, and somewhat on circuits, but mostly I work on semiconductor devices, device physics, newer technologies, newer materials. Professor Gaurav Banerjee, he works on analog and RFIC design. So, and if you see, and I would encourage all of you to go through our web pages and understand more about what all we do. So when you come, you should know everyone. You should know who is Professor Mayank, who is Professor Gaurav, who is Professor Kaushik, and so on, and what they work. So that will make your life, I would say, or that you will enjoy that part a lot more, because when you come, you will hear familiar names and you will have familiar faces, right? So, for instance, Professor Gaurav, I mean, many of us, we did our PhD, and after our PhD, we basically spent good amount of time in industry. I worked, for instance, at Intel, IBM, and Infineon in US, and for some time in Europe. Professor Gaurav Banerjee was in Intel in US. Professor Kaushik Majumdar was in Semitech in US. Professor KJ Vinoy, he's a senior faculty member. So Professor Kaushik Majumdar, he also works on semiconductor devices. And Professor KJ Vinoy, he works on RFICs as well as some aspects of RF system design, antennas, and so on. Professor Dipanjan Gope, he works on VLSI CAD and many aspects related to CAD. He also spent a lot of time in industry. And in fact, now he has a startup on VLSI CAD. Professor Varun Raghunathan, he works on photonics. So that's all semiconductor devices, focusing more on photonics and optoelectronics and physics related to phonons and light in semiconductor materials. Professor Bhardwaj, he also spent good amount of time in industry before coming to IISc, and he is here in IISc since almost now, I think, 16 years. And he teaches, he used to teach and work on digital VLSI, low power VLSI. And nowadays he is working a lot on CPS and other system related topic. Professor Shantanu Mahapatra, he works on semiconductor devices. Professor Chetan Singh, before his PhD, he was with TI for a very long period. And then after his PhD, he worked at a couple of places in US and Australia. And then he came here and he works on neuromorphic circuits and FPGA and VLSI design. And Professor Kurula Verghese, he works on FPGA design, VHDL, Verilog, and all the system level research, system VLSI research, I would say. So you learn more about these terminologies and these areas when you are here. So as I said earlier, that this is a specialization which drives very big market. 463 billion is the number last year, and this is growing with 10% rate every year. I already told you about the expertise which exists here. You will also see and you will be enriched by many PhD students around you. So this group, as I said, this cluster, we are 10 core faculty members, and across our group there are around 76 to 80 PhD students who are already around. There are 10 postdoctoral fellows. So postdoctoral fellows are people who have done PhD and they are further working in research labs. They are working on more deeper topics, right? And there are several PhDs graduated and they are at different part of the world, and hundreds of masters students. Many are in Bangalore. Of course, you can go and look into everyone's profile and understand what they are doing. But if you see in last 10 years, we have published close to 850 publications, close to 100 patents, and the group has raised close to 100 crores worth funding in last 10 years. So that's one of this funding is one of the key enabler for all the sophisticated labs that you will see here. Of course, there are several sponsored research projects, and when you come, your project would be, a subset of some of these sponsored research projects. Some are from industry, some are from other major funding agencies. We have close to a 25 crore worth laboratory infrastructure. I think this is a last year document, so this would have gone to something like 35 crore. I know several faculties have built some more infrastructure in the recent time. And as I said, our MTech intake, this is also a little higher, so you will see a bigger intake this year. As I already said, that majority of faculties, they basically after their PhD, they worked in industry, mostly in US or similar places, and then after working there for some time, they came. Just one minute. Who is that? Anil. Okay. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Some of you joined very late, but nevertheless, I hope you catch up. And those who joined late, make sure your microphones are mute. And when I ask you to ask questions, first raise your hand and then I'll let you ask questions. And meanwhile, if you have anything in mind that you may want to ask and don't want to forget, just you can type in the chat box. Yeah, I think some of you have already started typing. Look like that many of you don't have the raise button option. Then okay, we will address this problem later. Okay, and when you come here, you will also see some of the newer initiatives like Center of Excellence on Microelectronics, VLSI design, and some of the other strategic importance activities, some of the other activities which are engaging at a massive level with industry and so on. Okay, so this was about the program, and I don't have a picture here showing the fun that we have or the students have in IISc, but I believe if you search on YouTube, you will find a lot of these videos, and maybe when you come here, you will learn more about the other aspects of life in IISc, like all the events that I said, where the students and faculties participate and students enjoy, and outside your research lab or teaching lab, there's a lot of other activities that will keep you engaged and keep you encouraged to do more, I would say hard work in your research lab or course lab. Okay, let's look into the our curriculum. So basically we give freedom. So we have 6 courses which are must to take, and these courses are the core courses related to microelectronics. Without learning these courses, you cannot be specialized in microelectronics. But on top of that, there are 6 other elective courses that you will take, and you can take any course that you want depending on what your project advisor will suggest you, right? So that's the flexibility that we offer. And then we have a master's project in IISc. The project-based learning is very important, and we give 1 year to students to complete the project, and you will be told about the project by end of the first semester itself. You will have second semester to learn more about the project, get familiar with the research lab, get familiar with your advisor, get familiar with the research culture, or a laboratory culture. And then you will have one year where you will have complete freedom. You will work with your advisor, you will work with other PhD students, you will work with a much larger team, and you will be working on a project which will be, in most of the cases, these projects are very innovative, very novel, something which can result into new ideas, new invention, new research, new papers, patents, and so on. So this is the nature of project, and you'll have 1 year freedom to work on the project, and during that window, during that period, you will be heavily working with the advisor, postdocs in the lab, other senior PhD students, and maybe other research staff in the lab. So that's the time when you actually learn how to do something, how to make something, how to invent something, and that's the knowledge that you will use in future if you join industry, or if you want to pursue a further research path in your PhD, and again, wherever you go, whether industry or for some further academic positions and so on, right? So I will not tell you what these courses are. Of course, you will learn about these courses when you come here. But as you can see that there are these core courses which are listed. Who is teaching those courses? You will learn about that, and it's listed here. And then there are several elective options, and you can take these courses. And if you look into the curriculum and the syllabus, then you will understand that the kind of 1 minute, who is coming now? Okay, so you will if you read the curriculum, the program, you will notice that most of these courses are designed by the faculties. These faculties are world-renowned experts in these areas. Most of them do not teach only from a textbook. The textbook is of course given to students for to guide them, but most of these courses, the curriculum, the teaching material, everything is designed by the experience from the experience of these faculties. And when I say experience, means their real industry or R&D experience. And the textbooks are often given, of course, but that's only to guide the students, right? So if you look into the course, you will see that how much you will have, what kind of opportunity you will have to learn when you come to IISc, right? And this is a first-hand learning. This is not a learning from a textbook. This is first-hand learning that you will learn from everyone's, your faculty, your instructors' experience, their experience in R&D, their experience in their own research, their experience from their past industry careers, their experience from their engagement with industry, their experience from their research collaboration with industry and other funding agencies, and their experience of guiding and mentoring many research projects which they would have done in last 10 years, 15 years, depending on how long people have for how long people have been in IISc, right? So you're welcome to go through all of this, get familiar, and of course you will learn about all of this when you come back. When you join IISc, not come back. Okay, so what I will do now, before I get into your questions in the Google form, let's see if anyone has a question. So let's do one thing. If you can raise hand, you raise hand, and if you cannot raise hand, then I would suggest that you type your question in the chat box. Okay. So let's start with the raise hand option. Whoever want to ask question, just raise your hand. Just press the raise hand button now, and I'll come to you one by one. Okay, nobody has question. You guys are already feeling shy? And I can see your videos. So I can see some of you are smiling. Good. Ask question. No, raise hand, not that. Just press the button. There's a raise hand button. And if you don't have the button, just type that question. Yes, Sujit, go ahead. If you don't have button, just say what you want to say.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, actually, I wanted to know what tactics should I follow so that I can get most of the class.
What you follow?
What tactics should I follow so that I can make most of the class, whatever the class will be going on?
I'm not sure if I understand your question. You follow the class means you follow what is taught in the class.
So, what method should I follow so that whatever the content is being delivered in class, I can get most out of it?
I think can we take these questions when you are in IISc? I mean, keep this session for questions related to program and you're joining and any question that you have related to program.
Okay.
These kind of general questions that you can talk to me in the cricket ground.
Okay, sir.
Ankit Raj, go ahead.
Sir,
and after you have asked your question, just press the raise hand button once again so that I don't see your raise hand again.
Okay. Sir, since we have like 50 to 60 days like before we join like IISc, so we have a free time. So what are the like prerequisites so that we can learn that can be helpful when we go through the course?
That's very good. So how many of you want to learn something during this window? You can unmute yourself and just say yes. So I hear a loud yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful.
Yes, sir.
Now mute yourself.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I will. What I'll do, of course, I can suggest you many things, but let me do it in a more systematic fashion. I will ask my colleagues if they want to suggest something, and I will collect this and I will circulate this to you. Okay. So what we will do, we will certainly send you something to which you may want to go through during this period. But I would also suggest, that use this time to learn soft skills. I mean, you will have a lot of time to learn more about the program, the courses. Once you are here in IISc, your entire life, I mean, that 2 years will be microelectronics. You will be eating microelectronics, you will be drinking microelectronics, you will be sleeping microelectronics. Okay. So use this time to basically learn something different, learn soft skills. I have often noticed that, students, they are only focusing in their subject and somehow there's this grade fever, but they don't learn soft skills. So my personal suggestion will be that you use this time and learn as much as possible soft skills. And what are these soft skills? For instance, learn how to write, right? I mean, take a whichever program you like. I mean, Microsoft Word or or LaTeX. If you have not learned LaTeX, learn how to write in LaTeX. Learn how to write. I mean, you take you write essays and see how well you are writing, how well you are able to communicate your thought process. I would suggest that you use this time and teach people. Teach any subject. Can you guys mute yourself? Ankit Raj, you have a dog, I guess. Okay, so use this time to learn soft skills. For instance, if you have a younger brother or sister, hold them, ask them to sit in front of you, teach them something and ask them if they understood or not. So learn this time to learn how to teach. I mean, if you want to communicate better, you should know how to teach. And if you learn how to teach well, you can communicate better. And communication is very important in your future. I mean, tomorrow, when these companies come, or let's say wherever you go, whether you go for a PhD interview or you apply for PhD somewhere, or you go for an industry job or R&D job, your smartness is going to matter a lot more than your grade. For instance, somebody having 10-point grade and somebody having 9.5 point grade, but if the 9.5 pointer is smarter than 10 point, then the industry will prefer, or anyone will prefer 9.5 point. They will not bother about the 10 point, right? So now your job is done. Only in gate your rank and all these things matter. Beyond this point, your rank in the class and whether you have a better grade with your colleagues or friends or what, that will never matter. Of course, I'm not saying that you don't study at all and you then get 5-6 points out of 10 and then say, oh, why I'm smart. So of course, once you cross a certain bar, let's say if you are 8.5 pointer, beyond that doesn't matter much. Whether you have 8.5, 9.5, if you are smart, then that is more important. So smartness is going to matter a lot. Now, smartness doesn't mean your outlook, right? What you wear or whether you are able to use a proper accent or not. Smartness means your complete thought process, your way of working, your way of execution of things, your way of managing things, your way of engaging with people. And of course, so mostly everything boils down to communication, and then communication, there are two aspects of communication. One is, verbal oral communication, other is written communication. So when you are writing, you are working on your written communication. When you are teaching, you are working on your oral communication. So that's why I said, you try to use this time and work more and more on your soft skills. So when you come, if something was lacking, that you fix, and when you come, all of you feel equal, all of you feel smart, and then you build your career further on top of that. So that is very important. Later on, you will not have, or you will not get much time to work on these soft skills, right? So this is my personal advice, that if you want to learn something during this period, work on the soft skills, right? Work on reading a skill, writing a skill, and I would say presentation a skill or teaching a skill. And learn how to make PPTs, learn how to write essays, learn softwares like LaTeX, learn other softwares which will help you doing engineering and scientific work and so on, right? Okay, so there was one more question in the chat box, I believe. Okay, some of you may not have done your end semester exam. That's okay. I think you will. I'm not sure if you are already told about the date, but you will be asked to join the term possibly by end of August or beginning of September. So I think you still have enough time. If anyone has not done with the end semester exam, you will have time. But I believe most of you would have done your or are done with the end semester exam. Yes, I know the microelectronics website is not working. There's one question, Radha Agrawal, and that's the reason I have to go through all these documents. And what you see on this website is nothing but the same text presented in a more fancy fashion. The website is not working because because of COVID, the people who maintain the website and the server are not around, and things are down, and there's no way we can ask somebody to go and fix it. So yes, it will be down, but don't worry about it. All the relevant information is there in these 3 documents, which I have already shared. Okay. Any other question? No questions? So let's look into your questions here in the Google form. I hope you can still see my screen. If anyone not able to see my screen, just unmute and tell me what's the problem. Okay, look like no issues. Okay, so you can see the questions and I'll read it and I'll answer it. How a student manages work-life balance in IISc. I think I already answered it. Managing work-life balance is, when you have good work, there should also be good play, and IISc gives enough opportunity for a good play. Completely up to you. What's your hobby? What you like? Some people like photography, so there's photography club, and you can join that. Some people like swimming, so you can go and swim as long as you want. Some people like cricket or badminton or other intensive sports. So there are a lot of teams here, and even within the department there would be team. I'm sure your batch will form a team. So you'll find many sports teams, cricket teams, badminton teams, volleyball teams, and so on. You can join them and you can enjoy your time. We have a gym. You can go to gym. Some of us also basically go for a marathon run in the morning. So often students join me, for instance, or they have their own groups. So, often we go for, let's say, 10-kilometer run. So you can do that. I mean, there are many things that you want to do to balance your work other than doing Netflix and similar, video watching sources. So I would strongly recommend you that when you come to IISc, don't use IISc internet for watching Netflix. Use your time. If you are not in the lab, go and get involved in as many as possible sports activities, cultural activities, and many other activities. These are the things. These are things which will also help you to build your personality, right? I mean, if you are just watching Netflix, there's no personality gain. Yeah, you can watch some documentaries on Netflix, and then certainly there's an advantage, but nevertheless. Okay. Do we have the access to labs every day after the classes get completed? Yes, you will be given a lab. There is a MTech lounge where all of you will have your, the entire batch will have a dedicated lab, which is your sitting place, office place with your dedicated systems and so on. So yes, in the first year, you will have a dedicated lab where all of you can sit. You can use your system, you can use all your tools, and you can do all your assignments there. And once you basically move to your advisor's lab, then of course, again, in your advisor's lab, you will have a space, your system, and so on. So yes, in IISc, you will not be roaming around. You will have place to hang around, and you will have your dedicated lab and systems and so on. I think I already answered this question. Difficulty in procuring medical report. I think this is something you should write to the admission section. I cannot answer. Estimated time when course will begin will be September, and accommodation is also something which I answered. Don't worry about the statement in the offer letter. That's a very generic statement, is being carried forward from many years. The offer letter is sent automatically through a software. Yeah. More details, of course, will follow from the admission section about the protocols of coming and sanitization and things like that. But IISc is working on it, and you will get to know about everything very soon. Prerequisites. Well, I would say if you have done well in GATE, and not just the GATE, but I would say if you have studied the GATE subject in depth. Right? Let me make it very clear, in depth, not just to get some good grade in GATE, but if you have studied these GATE subjects in depth, there is no prerequisite needed. You have learned everything. What are the projects currently going on in IISc? There are hundreds of projects. I cannot list it out here. But yeah, I mean, I already told you about the expertise of various groups what people are doing are related to their expertise. So you will learn more about the projects when you come here. We usually don't talk about projects going on in IISc. We usually talk about the research areas in which we are embarking. And these within each research thread, within each research area, there can be dozens of scientifically and engineering relevant projects. And you will learn more about these things when you come to IISc, and depending on your interest, you interact with different faculties and you decide which project you want to work on or which area you want to work on, and then you narrow down to a project which is of your interest and your advisor's interest, right? Will there be any interview or test for microelectronics program? I already mentioned this in the beginning. No, you guys are shortlisted based on your GATE score and your academic performance. Consistency was the key. So if you are shortlisted, you would have been consistent. You would have done pretty well starting from your 10th class, 12th class, BTech and so on. And this year there is no interview test or interview or test. When the classes will begin, I already answered. Placement record of IISc. At least I don't know anyone who is unemployed. I can tell you this. The placement record is fantastic. But one thing I would like to tell you is that, when you come to IISc, placement should be the last thing that you should worry about. I mean, this is the culture in IISc. IISc students don't worry about placement. Placement is always the last thing which students worry about. Only during that placement week, but never before and never after, right? So don't bother about placement. You are here not to immediately get placement. Placement is the outcome of your learning. You are here to learn, you are here to contribute, you are here to basically learn how to work, how to do research, how to basically do something new, do something different, do something innovative, right? In an area which is very challenging but highly demanding. And if you think in this way, that if you have learned from some of the finest faculties in the country, or I would say few well known in the world, right? And if you invest your 2 years heavily in the lab, right, working on scientifically and industry relevant problems, the kind of training and learning you will have, then you can self-judge whether you should really worry about placement, right? You should not. Okay. Probable dates, again the same question, so I already answered. Sometime in September, early September. Prerequisite, no prerequisite. If you have done well in understanding GATE subjects, or I would say if you have done your BTech well, if you have studied your BTech subjects well, if you have solid background in all those subjects, then there's no prerequisite. Those who come from different background, like computer science or EE, maybe you can go and check the GATE syllabus for ECE and look into the device and circuit courses. So if you are good in devices and circuits, then you will not have any difficulty. Or if you have done the fundamentals of devices, electromagnetic theory, semiconductor physics, analog circuits, digital circuits, op-amp, if these things are clear to you, then you will not have any difficulty here. If you have any doubt, in case you are from programs like computer science or EE, then I would suggest that use this time and learn some of those courses. Will the MTech thesis work start from first semester? No, the work will start from immediately after the end of second semester, which is the end of April in your second semester. So you will actually have 1 year, 3 months to work on your thesis. 1 year is to work. Immediately after the semester, 3 months is to learn more about your research project, your thesis project, and so on. Right, so you will have enough time after your courses are done to work on your project. Oh, there are more. Internship opportunity, I already mentioned, there are many. But I can also tell you that you will have so much to learn in IISc that there is hardly anything missing for which you should go elsewhere to learn. I mean, if you are from other colleges, particularly let's say tier 2 colleges, where the laboratory based training may not be very intense, or the training may not be from the research experience of the faculties. Yes, and particularly in an undergrad, if you are in an undergraduate program, it makes sense to certainly go for internship and get, that these internships will give you more soft skills, you become more smart and, learn different things. But when you come for the masters, though internship opportunities are there, but I can also tell you that you will already have so many things to learn within IISc and within your lab and the other labs that possibly many of you will not even bother about internships. How many subjects we have to take up in the first semester? Read the document I have shared. Students allowed to take up internships? Yes. Companies visit, which companies visit during placement? There are many, there are more than 50 companies in the microelectronics area, cannot tell the name. Just think in this way that you name a company and they come here. And in fact, most of the companies don't get opportunity to come because, just the first 4 or 5 companies would hire everyone, and then the other companies don't get opportunity to come just because they offer lesser package than the other companies. And what we do here is that the companies who are offering the highest package, they come first, and then the list follows. Which software tools you can start learning before the course? I would suggest that you focus more on soft skills, and even if there's a software, then things which will help your soft skills like Microsoft Word, PowerPoint. Try to make fantastic PPTs, give presentations, learn LaTeX, see how to write a paper or a report in LaTeX. That will give you a next level ability for in terms of your writing skills. And then there are several other tools that you should learn, but you will learn about these tools when you come here. Will I get individual attention if I lack in something related to academics? Well, yes, but it's not a coaching institute where, think in this way, that it's not a coaching institute where basically you go and ask somebody every single doubt that how to solve this problem and that problem. Once you come to this level, at a master's level, you are supposed to be more independent. You're supposed to be more dependent on self-studies after your class. And if you have questions, I would advise at least what I do in my class. If anyone has question, they are supposed to ask in the class. I don't mind if the class is extended. I don't mind taking extra classes, but I prefer students ask questions in the class rather shying away in the class and then coming back to my office with doubts like how to do this and how to do that. I mean, at this level, I would strongly suggest you that you develop a tendency of becoming independent. This is once again, I repeat, this is not a coaching institute. This is not a training college. This is India's rank 1 research institute. Right, and you'll be taught by people who are heavily involved in research. They barely manage, of course they enjoy, but I can tell you that they all barely manage time to teach. Most of us would be working 14 to 15 hours a day. We invest a lot of time in teaching, but I can tell you that most of us barely manage, time to teach. So think in this way that they cannot take your independent or individual questions, offline. Of course, they will enjoy interacting with you if you come back with something very interesting, But if you ask something which is very well written in textbook and you don't want to learn from textbook, and you think that okay, you could not understand in the class, and you will again go back and say, can you teach me this again? That cannot happen in IISc. But yes, faculties enjoy interacting with the students. If you have questions which are beyond textbook, if you come up with some new thought, if you come up with something which is let's say very interesting to discuss, then of course they will enjoy time with discussing with you. You can then sit with them at the coffee shop and you can have long chats with them. So this is the culture here. People like interacting with the students, but the interaction should not be like, sir, how to use this formula and how to use that formula, right? So you should understand that. Okay. Can I spend extra hours in lab? Of course, you can live in lab. I can tell you, and this is not just in IISc, but I can tell you that this is a culture which exists in all big academic institutes like IISc, whether it's IISc or IIT. When I was in IIT Bombay, I studied in IIT Bombay, did my master's there, and then PhD. So when I was in IIT Bombay, I can tell you that for almost like one long year, I lived in lab. So completely up to you. You can live in lab. Nobody stops you. There is no working hours here in IISc. There is no time when the lab is open. There is no time when the lab is closed. All of you will have your biometric access to the lab. You just use your fingerprint, get in the lab, do whatever you want, learn as much as you can, right? And if you want to spend the whole night, if you want to spend the entire year in the lab, you are welcome to do that. You are free to do that. Any chance of conducting classes online? If COVID continues and for some reason, if we are not able to conduct big classes, then some of those classes may go online. But we don't have culture of basically doing online classes if students are around and if the classroom classes can be offered. Online can happen only because of COVID, but not in general. Date of commencement of classes, I think I already mentioned. And if this, I think most of you will have the date soon and you will come to IISc, you will go through all the protocols, and then at that stage we will see whether we should offer courses online depending on how the cases are growing, or whether we engage with you in the classroom. But whatever it is going to ensure that all of you remain safe and your education is not affected. When we need to visit institute, you just wait. I think institute will tell you the dates and the date of arrival and other protocols. Why many GATE toppers are interested in VLSI and IISc? I think whoever asked the question would certainly be a GATE topper, so you guys should know. Why VLSI became such a popular course in India? Because many students want only VLSI, whether the institution may be changed, but I don't know what the question is, but I guess you want to ask why toppers are interested in VLSI. I mean, this is one of the fantastic stream, I would say. There's a lot to learn. There's so much scope, not just in industry, but also in research. So of course, that's one reason why people are interested. Other is, yeah, the subjects are interesting. At least I was, more than a scope, I was interested in the subject when I opted for VLSI 15 years back. So for me, for instance, courses like, analog design and device physics, some of these courses motivated me to pursue microelectronics and VLSI. And I believe it's the same, still same, and most of you, I hope most of you are attracted by the course, not by the package, which is offered in this program. Yeah, these questions, how much the pandemic will affect the PG program? We hope not. And you cannot do anything to minimize it. Or I would say that, you're already coming to the best place in the country. So one level job is done. The second is that you work, you learn as much as possible, rather focusing on grade. I would suggest you learn as much as possible, because tomorrow how smart you are and how much you have learned is what is going to be seen if there is a crunch in industry. So it's not that industry, because of budget cuts will never hire. They will hire, they will continue hiring. But what will happen is that they will hire only the smartest people in the country, right? So try to become the smartest in the country during this 2-year period. You're already coming to the best place in the country. Now use this opportunity and try to become the smartest in the country during this period, right? And if you are smartest in the country, you should not be bothered about, all these budget cuts and so on, because you alone don't want 1,000 jobs, right? You want just one job for yourself. So bother about that one job. All you have to do is become the smartest in the country and then I don't see any problem in you getting what you want. Research work and projects, you should come here and learn. I would strongly suggest you not to learn from your seniors about research. You learn from the faculties directly. Your seniors are only 1 year senior to you. They are still struggling understanding the research, or I would say they are still engaged in learning what the research is. As I said, that you start learning about your project and research only once you are done with the second semester exam, and that's the time they are just done with the second semester exam. So they've just started learning what these research projects are. Rather talking to your seniors about research projects, all these things. Once you are here, talk to faculties, use the first 1 semester to see what's happening in different labs. Engage with PhD students. I would suggest engage with senior PhD students in different labs. Visit different labs, see what different labs are doing, what kind of projects, research projects they are working, what thread attracts you the most, and then engage with the faculty members towards the end of first semester. Talk to them that, sir, this is what I found so interesting and I want to work in this area and that area. And that's how things are done, right? I mean, you're coming for a master's program, and at this level, the projects are, are not something which are, let's say, title oriented. The projects are mutually defined. Because the projects will always be part of a grand research scheme, and when you interact with your potential faculty in whose area you are interested, and then you work out what exactly attracts you the most, and tell him that you want to work in this area and that area, and you saw that PhD student working on some of these fantastic things, and you want to contribute in those threads, and that's how the projects are defined, right? Okay. Yeah, I mean, MSD lab and other research labs links are very helpful, very good. Microelectronics, as I said, this is a different server, so that server is down and the person maintaining is not here, so we can't help it. We cannot ask people to take risk and come and check things. That's why details were circulated. That's why this session is done. But I'm glad to hear that our research lab links were helpful, and I would suggest that you can use this time and go through every faculty's research page and understand what they're working on, what they're doing. If you want to learn more, you also try to scan through their papers, right? I mean, download their papers and scan through their papers. I'm sure all of you would know how to download paper, even if you don't have a library access. There are several proxies, you can use that. Download their paper, just scan through their papers, read the title, see what they're working on, and that will give you some idea of what it is. I understand students are always eager at this stage. They want to know more and more about the place they want to be. And this is what you can do. You can go through everyone's lab page or their individual websites or web page. See what they are doing, what areas they are working on, what sponsored projects they have, where their students are, what papers they have published, what is the topic of these papers, and so on. So that will also help you understanding a lot of stuff about faculties and their research areas. So I'll not repeat the same questions again. If I read something, how is MTech in IISc different from MTech in IITs? I think I'll tell you this when you come here. I don't want to do a comparison on record. I mean, every institute is putting their effort, and all these institutes, they basically work very hard and try to give as much as possible to their students. So there's no point in comparison. Of course, I'm sure you would have read enough Quora articles and social media articles about IIT Bombay and IISc, and IIT Madras versus IISc, and IIT Madras versus IIT Bombay, and so on and so forth. So I don't want to get into that. The fact of the matter, or the ground reality as of today, is that you have opted for IISc, and your life next 2 years is going to be in IISc. So you learn more about IISc, and then I think you should write about these comparisons on in social media platform, that how IISc is different than IITs, rather we telling about this. Okay. Is the course completely research oriented or is also includes industry oriented training? It's both. I mentioned it already. You will get flavor of both research, or I can tell you this way that we do both fundamental research, which would be on technologies which are, let's say, projected for future 5 years, 10 years down the line. And we also work on technologies which are of immediate industry interest, right? So in that sense, whatever we do is always industry oriented. It's just that the timelines are different. Some of the topics that we work on would be of interest to industry in 5 to 10 years. And some of the topics that we work on are of topics which are of interest to industry immediately, right? So everything is industry oriented training. We don't do anything which is, we don't work on black holes or string theory. Whatever we do is meant for becoming an industrial relevant technology in future. The timeline varies. Some of the things may be seen or may be of interest to industry immediately or in a year or two. Some of the things may be of interest to industry in 5 years or 10 years. So it will be completely up to you. You want to work on something which is of immediate need or something of futuristic need, right? And usually what I suggest to students that, if they want to build a career in industry immediately after masters, or whether they want to pursue a PhD, they can basically be open to any of these threats, because eventually what is important is that how well they have learned and how well they have done what they have done, rather exactly what they have worked on, right? So when you come here, you see what attracts you the most and work on those topics, rather worrying about whether this is of interest to industry immediately or after 5 years or after 10 years. Right? I mean, what attracts you the most is what you should work on. I think many of these questions I answered. You will have a lot of lab training. You will learn about research here. Style of learning and examination. Okay, let me answer this. See, as I said that the style of teaching here is mostly lab oriented, and the teaching is mostly from experiences. So we don't teach ditto from textbook. You will hardly find anyone who will basically teach, ditto from textbook. Of course, 1 or 2 courses could be that, if they are so basic and core courses that all the discoveries in that course or all the findings in that course would have been, let's say, 60, 70, 80 years old. Let's say courses like semiconductor device physics, all those things were invented, discovered, validated 80, 90, 100 years back. So of course, none of us are 100 years older to have experience of those time. So we cannot claim that we are teaching from an experience of those times. But yes, when we teach, a textbook may be followed in those kind of courses, but when we teach, we will bring all our experience of the recent time and where all that knowledge is applicable. Then there are a couple of other courses which are, which would be still in the research papers, which may not have a textbook in place. And those kind of courses which we teach are often from our experience, our knowledge from various research articles which people would have written, our own understanding of research area, our own experience in that area, experience in industry, and so on. So when you get this kind of teaching, right, of course the learning is also going to be of similar nature, right? I mean, you will learn from the experience of all the experts who are here, all the world-renowned faculties, all the finest faculties in the country who are here. Most of us are pretty well known in our research communities. Right, and so you will learn from their experience, and you will develop that experience while going through all the courses, right? So that's one difference from the kind of teaching you would have seen or the kind of learning you would have seen in the past, right? And the exams are also barely anything from textbook. Most of the questions are designed by faculties. Often the exams are open book or take home. My exam, the courses which I teach, most of the exams are take home. Now take home doesn't mean that it's easy thing for do. Take home means that you can imagine that you will not find answers in any of the textbook. Take home means that you can imagine that you have to sit on the problem, you have to think about the problem and solve the problem. Take home means that the problem would be of something very practical in nature, and you will be given a week or so to solve the paper. So this is the culture. This is the culture which we have in IISc, right? I mean, this is not like, of course, there would be some exams like something very basic. There's nothing like take home. Everything is there in some book here and there. But things which are mostly which we teach from our experience. Let's say my courses, I would offer take home exams, and you will get 1 week or 2 week time, and all you have to do is you have to think about the problem and come up with a solution, right? But this is an exercise which if you do, you will have your life in industry or subsequent career will be much more easier, because you will upfront learn how to solve problems. COVID-19 impact campus placement, I doubt. I mean, when I got my first job, that was the time when the world has global recession. I submitted my thesis, PhD thesis, early 2010, and I had a job offer which was late 2009. And I don't know, most of you would be in middle school at that time, 8th, 9th standard. So you would not know much about the recession, global recession of that time, but just do a Google search. That was the time when the world economy crashed. That was the time when most of the companies were actually firing people rather hiring people. But still I could manage getting a job. And the reason is that, it's not that what you hear in news is that there are people who are fired. You will never hear in news that there are people who are hired. The people who are fired are always these underperformer people who were supposed to get fired at some fine day, and the companies find these COVID or recession like opportunities to fire these people, right? So you will never hear about this Intel hired 100 people or Samsung hired 200 people and so on in the news. So that happens. So when people are fired, the companies also need people, so they're hired. What is the difference? The underperformers are fired and the smartest people are hired. So all you have to do is become, as I already said, become the smartest in the country. Use this program, this 2-year training, and wherever you want to go, you want to go for a PhD program somewhere, you want to continue in IISc for PhD, or you want to go for industry job. All you have to do is become the smartest in the country, and I don't see that for any reason COVID-like problem can trouble you. So quarantine prior to date of joining or post joining, I think you better wait for what institute tells you. I think many of the questions I answered. Now the questions are mostly repeated in nature. What is the meaning of 1:2, 2:1, and 3:0 credit system? So 1:2 means 2 hours per week lab, and roughly around 2 hours. 1 hour per week lab, and 2 times 5 hours per week in lab. So 1 hour theory and 2 times 5 hours per week in lab. 2:1 will be 2 hours theory per week and 1 times 5 hours lab training, and 3:0 is a theory course, 3 hours per week theory and no lab. I think those who are non-EC, I already told them that you try to learn courses which are related to analog and digital circuit design and semiconductor device physics. And if you have learned these courses, then you will not have any difficulty. And if you have not, then I would suggest that you look into the GATE syllabus related to these courses and use this time to learn these courses. Oh, there are many questions. I mean, okay, rest of the questions were repeated in nature. So I will stop going through this document now. And I will now take your questions. So let's start with those who have questions in mind. Just raise your hand. No questions? Only smiles? Ling, okay, I will read these questions. Good afternoon, sir. I am more focused on placements after MTech. Is IISc the best place to choose? I am not the right person to answer this because I don't want to promote our course as a course for placement. We are not a private college who will promote programs or courses saying that we get 100% placement. You should understand that this is India's rank 1 institute. You are going to interact with some of the finest scientists and researchers in the country here. You are going to learn intensely from them. And if your focus is only placement, then I don't know, maybe you should talk to other people. But we don't promote our program or course as a program to get placement. You should come here to learn, to become the smartest engineers in the country, and then rest is a natural outcome of it. In other IITs, we choose teaching associates to get a stipend. In IISc, as there is no undergraduate, how will we? Okay, so in IISc, this is one advantage that the TA teaching associate, you will get a stipend. So in IISc, stipend is given first, and then you are encouraged to do some TA work. But the good thing in IISc is that you will not be asked to do any TA work in your first year. So that's one advantage compared to IITs. In IITs, you have to basically work 8 hours a week for some undergraduate lab or whatever. In the first year, often it is some undergraduate first year lab. In the second year, it is some undergraduate teaching assistantship. In IISc, you don't have this kind of thing where you have to invest your time to claim stipend. But when you join a research lab, when you join a faculty, that faculty might be teaching a course and may ask you to assist in the lab. So that would be a lab and that will happen in the second year. So that would be your first year MTech lab, which you have already done. and then that faculty may ask you to help, training the first year MTech students in the lab assignments. Okay, but nothing more than that. So you would be possibly sitting in that particular lab all the time and just helping the other first year MTech students, your immediate juniors, but nothing, no other person than that, no random UG student. I heard about we can get credited from other departments as well. There's nothing like department in IISc. Everyone teaches what they want to teach. And other than the core courses, as I said, the remaining 6 electives can be from any department, from any faculty in the institute. Right? So any course that you want within the same department, any other department, any faculty teaching, you can credit those courses. Okay, so I'm done with this. Yes, Kumar. Go ahead, Kumar. Kumar.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I have one question, sir. After completion of my MTech, if I would like to pursue a PhD, is there any direct chance for admission in IISc?
Okay. Well, there are 2 things. One is that the IISc MTech students, they of course get this advantage of being in IISc. But there's one more thing that one can do is if you enjoy research culture so much, then you can decide to convert your master's to PhD after 1 year. So that possibility also exists, right? And so you will have both the options open. When you convert, you typically save around 1.5 years, because then you don't have to work on your master's thesis first. You can directly work on your PhD problem. And when you convert, you have already done the courses, so you don't have to again take courses in PhD. So after masters, when you join PhD, you have to again take courses. So that's 1 semester waste and 1 year waste of your master's thesis. So that is what you save. 1.5 years is what you save if you convert from masters to PhD.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other question? Nothing comes to your mind? Tejas Mahale.
Yes, good afternoon, sir.
Go ahead.
Do we have to choose elective subjects not right after the coming there? So do we have to choose them in 2nd semester?
Electives are mostly in 2nd semester. The 1st semester is often the fundamentals related to program, and then only you can take electives. Electives are often more advanced courses, and to learn the advanced courses, electives will give you a better shape into your research project. So electives are more advanced courses, and it's obvious that you can take electives only after having done the basic courses, and the core courses are mostly the basic courses.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, who else was there? Yashwant Kumar, you raised your hand physically. Ankit Raj. Ankit Raj, go ahead.
No, sir, anyone can convert master to PhD, or is there any criteria so that there is criteria for MSD to PhD conversion, or anyone can convert it?
No, not anyone can convert. There's a criteria. So getting into PhD requires certain more skills to be tested. So the criteria is that your CGPA need to be more than, I think, 7.5 or 7. That's first thing. Second is there will be a committee which will interview you, and at the end of first year, if you apply for conversion, and you have to present what you have done so far, you have to present what you want to do, and the committee will interview you to judge your scientific, aptitude, scientific attitude and aptitude. So not anyone can convert. Only people who have A, done well in their courses, and B, have this aptitude for doing, research, right? So that's very important. And if they do well in the interview, if the committee recommends, then that conversion happens. And of course, then when the conversion happens, the registration happens, the stipend increases, and rest is, subsequent process. Anyone else? So no more questions. This is the chance you can ask question. Otherwise, if there are no more questions, I'm sure all of you would be hungry. I'm also hungry. I have to drop this call then. Okay, and then I will see you soon, I hope. I mean, in